where and how you can access the recordings. So that would be quite easy for everyone to access them without any adversities. So again, I hope now you can see my screen. Yeah, before all the sessions, we'll have, I'll prepare the agenda of the session, and I'll try to stick with all the steps mentioned in the agenda. But yeah, of course, since we have live sessions, maybe something will be different. So for now, one thing maybe I want to clarify if I'm having any technical, any connection issues. I hope that you can hear and see the screen well. So if I'm having any issues, then please let me know about it. If not, then we can start. So the agenda for today is the introduction session for this course. There won't be much programming, much technical things. Here, the main goals of today's session is to introduce you with the course, introduce you with the things I expect in this course, the way we will communicate, what we will do here. So, and also I will introduce myself. This will be during the presentation, so you'll find out some things about me, and then we will go to the introduction of IT in general. Yeah, in case you have any questions right now, you can type them in chat here in Teams. Okay, so that was the message from someone. But yeah, about the communication, I will introduce you a little bit later today, and I hope there won't be any. I'm sure there won't be any issues with the communication. So yeah, then I will introduce you to the IT in general. So since again, in the small remark, this is the course for the beginners. So if you already have any experience in IT, so that's great. But in this course, we basically start from the beginning, from scratch, and so this course should be the introduction to IT for everyone. Right. So that's about the introduction, and at the end we will have the relatively practical exercise where I will introduce you with the technical environment. We will develop, we will code, we will program, and all the right things. Okay, so if you have any questions so far, please let me know. But I will introduce the main details in this presentation. So today we use Microsoft Teams, but I will explain later how we will proceed during the next sessions. So first of all, this course is about .NET and C# development. Basically, when we talk about C#, that means that we usually work with .NET. So in this case, not like we will use them as the synonyms, but very closely related things. And yeah, so the agenda for today is that I will introduce you with the objectives and intent of the course, then the results of the study, timeline for the course, so I will introduce myself, then about the motivation, also some details about the IT profession in general, salaries and financial aspects. This may be quite a relative thing, but so we'll also introduce you, and the statistics of the course, and at the end, of course, we can ask the questions. So first of all, the objective of this course is to introduce you students with the .NET development, and with a wide range of capabilities that C# programming language opens for modern software engineering. A small remark here from our side is that in general, since this is a course for the beginners, so it means that this course will be mostly for those who have no experience in programming. So in general, it means that I will mostly talk about the concepts of programming in general, and so from this perspective, we will work with C#, with .NET, but all the things, all the approaches I will explain in this course. These approaches will mostly be used in other programming languages. We'll talk about other programming languages a little bit later, but maybe a small base for this course is that so we will mostly talk about the programming in general, not only about C#. But you'll see that lots of programming languages are quite similar, and if you learn one programming language, then usually you can easily switch to other language. But we'll talk about it a little bit later today. Yeah, so the main objective is to equip you with fundamental knowledge of programming. This is what I said, and yeah, in this course we'll be focusing on C# programming language. Yeah, so we'll work with Microsoft Visual Studio environment and .NET platform in general, and also with related advanced technologies. Maybe about the environment, I will work on Microsoft Windows. If you have other environment, like if it's macOS, Linux, or some other any other programming, any other operating system, then it's fine. Yeah, mainly it will be easier for you to work on Microsoft Windows, since most of the things will be taught about Windows environment and all the technical things, because in general, so for this course it will be important to have maybe for .NET that won't be quite complicated maybe as for other languages, but still some things will need to be set up on your computer. So for you should know some, maybe not exactly that you should right now you should do it, but during this course, and maybe at the beginning of this course, I recommend you to prepare your computer to set up some environment there. So if your computer has any issues, then so it's better to fix them, because in this course it will be required that your computer work well without any critical issues. Yeah, of course, you don't need to have any super mega advanced setup or advanced hardware, but so just a normal, usual, stable hardware is needed here. Yeah, so then we introduce students with the fundamentals of object-oriented programming concept, since especially so from my experience, this is maybe the main topic in programming, and if you understand the concept of object-oriented programming, then I would say you you know the half of the programming concepts in all the languages. Then it's also provide an understanding of the current pros and cons of the technology, as well as the main application scenarios you can use your knowledge. This course incorporates various learning models. We'll use problem-based learning approach that are intended to align students' views and industry needs, which ensures that participants will gain all the necessary experience and, of course, fundamental knowledge through lectures and project work. So in this during this course, mostly you will work individually, but of course, so it's not like in the exam where you should just stick to what you write, to not take a look, to not discuss with others. In this course, I would like you to communicate with each other. Of course, if you have any questions, of course you can ask me, you can ask anyone you want, and but about the communication, I really prefer that you communicate with each other and explore new things together. So that would be nice. And of course you will learn how to work with Visual Studio Code. So I will introduce you with this IDE, with this tool, which can be used not only for .NET, not only for C# programming, but for, I would say, maybe for all the programming languages which exist. And at the result, you will be familiar with the result of the course. You'll be familiar with all the fundamental concepts of programming. You'll be familiar with .NET environment in particular, and the C# programming language, which is used in this environment. You'll understand how to work with Visual Studio Code. This is the tool I will introduce you later, so that's not like the programming language or something very special. That's the tool where the program can be written. We'll show later to you this tool, and of course you will also install this tool on your computers, and then you will be able to start working with .NET. Then you'll also be capable of distinguishing tasks that can be solved using Visual Studio Code. And there will be different tasks. Mainly we'll write on C#, but for now I'm not really sure, but maybe something will also be touched from, but definitely something will be touched from other related I don't know what to say, programming languages, maybe programming languages a little bit, and other related, I don't like really to say languages, maybe environments or something we can call them. And so you will be able to create, compile some C# programs. So you will write the code, you will construct your solutions to solve some problems, to solve some algorithms you want to create. And you'll also be able to understand the C# language, and also you'll be able to understand the best practices used in programming in general, and in particular in C#. Maybe so at this point I would like to point to this point because in general, working with the programming, with different programming languages, with different environments, it is very important to stick to best practices, to stick to the concepts which can be different in different programming language. There are some concepts which are used in almost all the programming languages. So yeah, in this course, and when you learn them, not only this course, but in everywhere where you learn programming, you learn things related to the programming. If it's software or framework or something like that, it's always really important to stick to the best practices used. So yeah, this is what we will talk about. And yeah, so having requirement students course, students will be capable of building their own projects. There's someone waiting in the lobby. So it's somebody. Okay, let's come back here. Okay. So yeah, you will be capable of developing your own projects with Visual Studio Code. You will be able, as I said, use object-oriented programming approaches and adapt them in your programs, in your code. You will be able to use existing libraries. Maybe some of you, or maybe most of you, maybe all of you don't know what the libraries in programming are. I will explain a little bit later. But yeah, since we use these terms, maybe to not confuse you, the libraries is just so like in real world we have libraries. You will have the collections of the books there. Same as about the code. This is the collection where the pieces of code are located. And so this is what we say when we mention libraries. Yeah, so then you'll also be able to develop reusable .NET components. And also you will be skilled of leveraging the major namespaces and classes of .NET framework. I will explain later what that framework in general is if you haven't heard about it before. You will also be able to apply the knowledge of experience working with using language integrated query, so working with the databases. So that would be in .NET environment. This would be WINQ, language integrated query. But we will also I think take some things from SQL language, since this is basically link. It's there are some similar things to SQL there, but I think that would be nice if we take SQL language in general, so to introduce this to you, because from my experience and from the programming in general, SQL, basically not everyone, but most of the IT people should know how to read SQL language and also maybe a little bit how to use it, because it's used not only in the programming, but in lots of non-IT related fields. And yeah, also about the version, we'll talk about the version control. So we will use Git. I guess I will introduce you to Git. Most likely this will be next time during the next session. And Agile methodologies to introduce you with the project management. Alright, and yeah, about the timeline for the course, maybe we can just to not make you bored. I will share the plan of the course with you a little bit later today in general. So, but this presentation you can see the modules we have. So we will split the work into several modules. So the first one is of course the introduction. So just a general introduction with the language, with the environment. We will work then the basics of the C# programming and programming in general. Then we will go with the math operations and logical operations in .NET programming. Then also we'll introduce you with the algorithms, with the concept of the algorithms we can use in programming. Then strings and regular expressions. So that's not only about C#, but I guess regular expressions are used in lots of places. We'll talk about not only programming places, but in lots of places when we work with the texts. But yeah, so we will talk about it. And then the sixth module, from my point of view, is maybe the most important point. The most important module is object-oriented programming. As I said, because the concepts of object-oriented programming are very important and widely used in lots of different frameworks. I would say frameworks, not programming languages, because the key thing on practice is that you work with frameworks, you work with the software, and all these things usually but almost all the time they use object-oriented programming. We'll talk about that. From my point of view, this will be the key topic. Then we'll talk about data structures and collections. Also, then, as I said, we'll talk about databases, about the way we can work with the databases. I will, maybe some of you already know what the databases are. Some of you already definitely heard about them, but yeah, in this course I will introduce you with the usages of databases in IT. So then at the end of the course we'll talk about the project work, basically how the work usually is done in IT projects. So that's why we'll talk about agile development, about Scrum basics, and also SDLC. Also a couple of Git, as that was not mentioned, but we will use Git during our course to share the files with each other, and at the end we'll have the final project. This will be a conclusion of the course where you will actually show all the key knowledge you learned from the course. And the next one is I will introduce myself. So as you already know, my name is Arturs, and so maybe let's start with my experience in information technology field. I have been working as a technical IT consultant in IT consulting company. So that's like almost 4 years. And during this period, I participated in different projects. So as you may see from the terms, all these are relatively long-term projects. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about project work, but in general there are different kind of projects in IT. Some of projects long for like maybe several, maybe for several hours as well. Yeah, why not? Some for several days. Maybe most of the projects for several months, I would say. And anything what is longer than 1 year, this is considered as long-term project. Yeah, so mostly I worked in long-term project. I work as SAP consultant. So if you maybe heard something about SAP, that's the German company, so large company which provides the business software which provides the software for different kind of softwares for business solutions. So as an example, you have large IT, you have large company. It's not matter if it's IT or not. Anything can be. We can imagine that's leasing, that's banking, that's fleet management, and so on. Yeah, so the large company which has lots of different sectors, lots of different fields they work with. And the idea is that, of course, you should, the company should be able to automatize lots of things there, to be able to control everything there. So there, of course, there may be there are the customers of this large company, this large business. Of course, there should be the software where there's communication between the customers and the company, the business. So that's really important to have the software which will automatize all these processes. So it can be the emails, for example, as small things. A small example, it can be the emails, phone calls, invoices, technical documents, and lots of similar things. And of course, nowadays, in 2021, it's for large companies, it's rarely done in the way that all these things are prepared manually. Because, of course, usually it should be done by some kind of software. And yeah, this is what I'm working with. That's SAP CRM, Customer Relationship Management. I mostly work with this environment, but yeah, of course, I also touched some other products. So like SAP CRM, that's Customer Relationship Management. So it means that this is the system where the main functionality, where the company, the database of the company in general, communicates with their customers. Of course, there's some different other related softwares related to SAP CRM and in general. So if we talk about such projects, so from my experience, these are the projects where there are like hundreds of people work, hundreds of developers, hundreds of IT people work on one solution. So that's quite large development, and it requires lots of people to be involved. Yeah. So then again, I continued working on with SAP CRM. So also as the technical developer after my first project, and since March this year, I also work with SAP CRM. But not only SAP CRM, let's say that also ERP, so that's the accounting system in general. So CRM is just the application of the enterprise resource planning system in general. And so right now I'm working as the functional consultant. Yeah, maybe you don't know what the functional consultant is. Basically, this is not the developer who writes the code, but this is the So functional consultants are the people who mostly communicate the solutions. They maybe imagine the solutions, so how some things should look like. And yeah, also I work as the solution architect for not the global solution, yeah, in the whole system, but let's say there are some requirements. For example, there are some requirements coming from the business, from those who use the system, and so my task is to find the solution for this requirement, to describe the solution, and then to pass this solution to the corresponding developer who will actually program the solution. And yeah, also, meanwhile, I had some internal projects involving SAP Fiori, so that's the web development. So it means that there's some web pages. Maybe I won't go deep on the web applications now, but let's imagine that this is, maybe if you know what the web applications are, then SAP Fiori is related to web applications. For those who know what the web applications are, this is quite similar to the websites, but was more user-orientated content then. So that's SAP Fiori, and of course SAP ECC, that's the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning for accountant. And yeah, also C4C, customer for I don't remember, customer for clients, so or something like that. Forgot. Okay, never mind. So that's something similar to CRM, but it's less advanced as CRM is. It has a little bit less functionality. But yeah, so I also work on it. Meanwhile, yeah, also I usually do some mentoring, some teaching to other colleagues, also for those who are new in IT, in IT field. Sometimes they're new to IT field, but mostly they are new colleagues, also the interns who come to us, and so I need to prepare them for new work. Also, meanwhile, I have some private projects. So as an example, that's so the recent example is the website I developed for my business, yeah, for my project. Yeah, also I participated. I and my colleague, we participated in. So if you know, at University of Latvia there is it's called business incubators, and so yeah, we succeeded. We got the first place with our solution. So yeah, that's what I've done in addition. So yeah, currently there's also this development is ongoing, maybe not as active as it was some time ago, but still I develop. I'm enhancing my website, so that's the web platform, that's the website, so it means that the web development is there. So I usually work with PHP programming languages, PHP frameworks. There are some other related languages, so database work, and of course, since we talk about web development, it's HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So everything is there, and since last year I'm the lecturer at Riga Coding School. So this is my actual fourth course. Previously I had 3 Java courses. So that was 100 hours course, which is quite similar to what we have now, but on Java. And yeah, 2 times I had the long Java course, which is more advanced course, which is 160 hours. I guess this will be also your next option this after this course. But we'll talk a little bit about it. So about education, there's maybe nothing quite special. Yeah, I finished the school, then I got my bachelor's degree in mathematics and statistics, and yeah, also currently in addition to what I mainly do, so I mainly work with IT. So you talked about your hobby. So for me, it's the main thing I do is working on IT projects. So for now, there are, as you maybe you already know, there's a huge demand in IT since last year, because of course of this COVID things, and everything becomes more digital, more technical, and the demand in IT is quite big now, quite large, quite high. Okay, so so you already introduced yourself. Okay, if you have any questions, you can briefly type them in chat. If you want, I will explain maybe some communication things a little bit later. So maybe this slide will skip this because you already introduced yourself. So at the beginning of this session, of course, maybe a little bit later, so we'll communicate with each other, and of course, maybe of course I will find something new, something interesting about yourself. But please, you can briefly explain all the thoughts to other students, to me. So if you have some interesting experience, some interesting motivation, some interesting things you want to share with others, you can briefly do it in the chat. Again, I will explain the communication channels we'll use. But yeah, so be confident, be brief to share everything you want with other students, with me. Don't be shy. So no one will punish you, of course. Yeah. So why non-programming? Yeah. So as I just already said, the key thing is that there's a huge demand in programming. So I will point it to I will place it as the first thing, because for now it's so from my experience, everyone needs IT people. So this is what I also noticed when I participated in little business incubators. Then lots of other teams had to develop, not lots of, but almost all the teams had to develop some kind of IT or IT-related solutions, and of course, and everyone needed IT people to actually develop their solutions. So in this case, and for now especially, there's a huge demand in IT, and trust me, because of COVID things, all these COVID-related processes, COVID-related things, there will be more people, more companies, more activities which will switch to IT, to some IT solutions, and that's why, of course, if there are more IT solutions, then of course people who can program, who can work in IT field, there will be huge demand to them. Okay, so so some things, it lets you do more work in less time. That's for sure. It allows you to make interesting projects. That's definitely. So as I said, I work in IT for almost 4 years, but still, for me, I have this passion when there is some things I need to code, I need to develop, and to be honest, I feel like a small baby who wants to build something in this sandbox. Sometimes the same as for me. I am really passionate when there is something I need to develop, I need to do. Yeah, that's for sure. That's fun. It's quite interesting thing of fun. Don't think that everything will be easy for you. So in this course, but in general, also when you have the experience. To be honest, what I know from my experience, there are differences when you work the first year in IT and when you work the 10th, your 10th year in IT. One thing which will be the same, that you will face the same problems in 10 years than you face now in IT. I mean, all the errors, all the bugs, all the communication. So yeah, we'll maybe talk a little bit later about it. But in IT, you will definitely need to communicate lots of things with other colleagues, and that's why you may have some. Usually, of course, not always, but sometimes, usually, you will face some communication complexities. It's the same to go in, and that's what you will face. Most likely, will face now, and this is what you will face in 10 years as well. So in this case, yeah, if you have some issues now, don't worry. All the senior employees also have same or similar issues, but in general, it's definitely fun, I guarantee you. And especially if you communicate more with other colleagues. Yeah, it helps you organize and test your ideas. That's sure. Maybe I will. I will want to also share maybe a little bit my experience with organization. Yeah, also always what I heard from those who left or finished the studies. If it's mostly in school, in university, maybe a little bit from school as well. A little part of those who finished school as well is that they say that so they learn something in university, but they don't need it in real life. In real life, there's totally different things expected from them. Sometimes, yeah, of course, this is true. During the studying, you not usually, but sometimes you learn the things which you want to use in future. I also experienced such things, but what I definitely want to recommend to pay attention to is that during the studies, you will use the same approaches to learn that you might need to use in real life, in real programming, in real IT world. Again, maybe in other fields, not IT fields as well, but since I only worked in IT, then maybe for me that's there is not much to say about other fields, but in IT in general, you may definitely need to use some approaches to organize, to learn, to prepare to something. Yeah, this is maybe what, from my experience, what comes from the university, that before the exams you usually need to prepare yourself to learn to repeat some things. And recently I had this in the interview to the new project, and it was this year. Yeah, so I'm having some, as I mentioned before, I'm having some projects as part of my main job, and before the project I had the interview where I had to prepare. So, yeah, actually the experience was quite fun. That was on Friday, somewhere at 4 p.m. So the director of the IT company I'm working in, he said that, so that was on Friday at 4 p.m. He said that on Monday at 8 a.m. So from morning I will have the interview with the project. So it means that on Friday, so in period on Friday and Saturday, Sunday, before Monday, I had to prepare myself to the interview, to learn all the, not to learn, but to repeat all the topics needed for the interview, also to prepare the CV and all these related things before the interview. So that's quite, I would say that's quite similar what happens in the university. So in this case, IT field have some similarities that you should prepare yourself before some key events in your IT daily life, right? But yeah, still the key point here is that that's fun. That's fun, and so some bullet points. Most people can learn to program a computer. Yes, that's for sure. I would say that almost everyone can learn how to program. And of course, in fact, yeah, so that's the second point. It's really precise, that most people already know the basics of programming, but even if they never programmed, and maybe sometimes if they even have never touched the computer, that's a rare case nowadays. But in basically everyday life, almost everyone use the approaches needed in programming. And yeah, that's quite simple, that's true, but doing it well is hard. Yeah, this is and yeah, this is mostly about the best practices, which will definitely improve your style of coding and what you can achieve with your program, with your development, with the program you developed. So yeah, why need to program? There are some key things. Of course, writing code for collaborative projects. So that's true. It's quite rare case when you need to program from the beginning, like you have just empty folder, empty space, and someone will ask you to hey, let's develop the project from the beginning, from scratch. This is not how it usually happens. Also, from my experience, there are usually the projects with already developed solution, and what I need to do is that I need to introduce, to enhance some new things to the existing solutions. Yeah, also reading, editing code originally written by others, that's also true, and that's why so yeah, the key point here is written by others. So I would like to point your attention to this sentence, to these words that code originally written by others. So please remember that maybe not in our course, but so if you think about it in our course, this will be great. Then when you write the code, so when you develop that solution, so in our course you should imagine, but in real life you should know that your code will be later and used by or reused by other developers, and that's why. So when you develop your code, develop your solution, you need to think about that it should be comfortable for others to be able to use it. So when you write the code, please think about others, because otherwise there are some IT developers who develop messy code, so their solution is quite messy. They just want to finish it as quickly as possible. They don't stick to the best practices. They just have the first thing in their mind and they write it in the code. Of course, this is not the approach you need to use, and you should never use it, because again, the key thing is that you should think about that. Maybe again, if it's your private project, maybe that can be fine, but you should also, even for yourself, you should also always think that your solution will be touched and reused by others. Yeah, that's why please be careful and think about it. Financial aspects, you can find the range of salaries, and that's quite a relative thing, and based on your experience, based on the field you work in, the range may be different. Also it can be different based in the country you work in, and usually the same as maybe you know that so in past, maybe like 10 but 20 years ago, there are lots of companies who moved their factories to that time that was China, maybe other countries like Vietnam and so on, to pay less for the products they produce. Nowadays, of course, China already gone through this classification of the country, so now, of course, they earn more, but always in world companies usually find the countries where they can pay less. The same is for IT field. So usually in that's not about Latvia. That's maybe about other countries. I won't mention them here, but so from my experience, there are some even for large projects, the developers, the programmers from not so developed countries are used. But in general, you can see the salary. So we talk about C#, but again, from my point and what I already mentioned, it's not so important which language you use, because in general, like for example, you can see here HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Usually, when you work with HTML, you definitely need to use CSS and JavaScript, and also almost everyone uses SQL. There's no SQL here. Even SQL is considered as the application of the programming of other programming languages, but in general, so sometimes you should know the set of programming languages to be able to work on the environment you are assigned to. So in this case, first talk about salaries. It's quite a relative thing. You can check salaries in countries, but again, please don't live in Switzerland. Of course, the salaries are quite huge, but you know that the costs of living in Switzerland are much bigger than in other countries. So that's the aspect, but yeah, you can check them here. Maybe I want to go deeper in the salaries. That's not maybe so important right now, but you may see that for in IT field the salaries are one of the biggest in the world, of course. Okay, so you can check the different countries. I will share all the presentations with you, so don't worry if you want to check. Yeah, as you can see, maybe Latvia is not on the top of the countries, but it's quite, I would say, quite well-paid country. So comparing to other countries in IT field, of course. And yeah, so you can check this, and yeah, in general, the financial motivation. So the C# and .NET, we have solid prospects, but again, programming language and the programming language is not the most important thing because again there are lots of mixes in IT between different languages. Yeah, so you can find plenty job opportunities using C#. .NET you'll find the best deals on market, that's for sure. Yeah. So that's for sure we have, and as I said, for now there's a huge demand of IT people. That's definitely what happens now, and that's why, of course, we in IT work, we need more people now to be able to cover all the things we have in our scope now. Okay, so you can check the references, and yeah, so if you have any questions, you can ask them now, and yeah, after that I will so if the questions are related to the communication and to the environment we will use, so this will be presented next. So, but before we move to it, so do you have any questions? If you want, you can type the questions in chat, so as you want. Okay, maybe if not, then I will maybe have a 10 minutes break. So we'll have the breaks during our sessions. Yeah, maybe once. Okay, maybe one thing before the break, so you can do it during the break. I will, well, as mentioned here, we'll use Discord as our main communication channel. So, and that's why I will. So here it is. I will send the invitation link to you. So I will send it in our WhatsApp chat, and also I will send it now here in chat, in Teams chat, so you can join this group. Okay, so I will and I just sent it here, and I will also send it in our WhatsApp chat. Okay, so during the break you can join this chat, and so right now let's have 10 minutes break. So okay, let's continue and let me introduce this code here. So I see that that almost everyone checked it. So that's good. And so first of all, maybe so you can see, yeah, we have different channels. So firstly, there will be information channel. So this is welcome and rules. I guess I won't use it too much during our course. This will be just the main, not the main, but the explanation channel. So here you can basically find the main things, main explanation about our course. So maybe let's quickly go step by step. So first of all, we have the sessions on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So from 6:30 to 9:30. So maybe sometimes we will finish earlier because you may need to do some practical things. So that's how it usually happens. I will give you some time, usually at the end of the session, where you can do some practical exercises. And yeah, usually there will be 10 minutes break. So during the session today, we'll most likely just have only one, because the major part, not the major part, but the significant part of today's session was the introduction from Samba. So maybe to be in time, we'll have only one break, but usually we'll have 2 breaks during the sessions. And maybe one small remark. I want all you to do. I hope that you can see this first message in the channel. So yeah, this is general channel. We will use it as the main channel for the conversation. So all the public questions you want to ask, you can write them here, and I will also use this as the main communication channel. Yeah? So all the things, all the discussions, so please write them here. Also, that would be great if you create your own channel with other students, so you can communicate all the things about this course. This would be great. So this, of course, will improve the learning for you in this course. And yes, so I hope you can see this first message. If you don't see, please let me know. Maybe I can. I'm not really sure if this part is shared with you. So I hope that all you can see this. If not, then please let me know. And yeah, so basically what's going on here, unfortunately we will need to move the session this Wednesday to other day. So, and in fact, you please go to Google Forms and select any date. Yeah, you can select any date except the 20th of July. So please, it can be any day starting starting tomorrow as well. So if you if you want, you can also select tomorrow, but that will be any day except the 20th of July. So you can select even if you want Saturdays, Sundays, why not? So that's fine for me. So just select any date. You are fine to reschedule the session, which I expect to be on Wednesday, to any other date. So you are free to select any date. So then select the date and submit. Yeah, of course, it should not be Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because we already have the session on these days. So please go here and vote. So if you have any questions about this day, and yeah, of course, maybe let's maybe at the end of today. So at the end of the session, I will check the results, and then I will announce which date will be. It will be. Yeah, but unfortunately, I have an event which I cannot really miss on this Wednesday. That was not selected by the date. Was not selected by me, unfortunately. So that's why we need to move it to other day. But so from my experience, so during our three previous courses, that was, like I said, 100, 160 hours. There was only, there wasn't any session we there was one session. No, actually there wasn't any session we rescheduled. So in this case, don't worry. I expect that this will be the only date we'll need to move something. Yeah, all the other dates should be in time. So nothing, no more rescheduling is expected. And I'm pretty sure that it won't be forced if I don't have any serious maybe issues with my availability. But I definitely won't plan anything during our sessions. Alright, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that we'll use general chat as the main as the place for the main conversation. Yeah, so this will be a public conversation. Of course, every time, any question at every time 0 to 24, you can ask any questions. So I will. So to me or to other students, so I will answer them once I'm available. So, but I always read this chat. I always receive the messages. So I will reply you as quickly as it's physically possible. Of course, if I don't sleep or maybe sleeping is the only reason why when I won't reply you, but so all the other conditions, so the other time I will definitely be available answering your questions. Yeah, so all the materials, all the sessions will be found in Knowledge Resources channel. So I can I can already share the materials we had today. Moment. So this one is the current presentation, and I can also share the next presentation. I hope, but we will definitely go through this presentation during today's session, and so there will be one practical task. Let me think. That would be I'll create a new channel. So the practical tasks. And today I will share one practical task with you, so you can find practical tasks here. So let me also edit this so you can add no, not this one, this one. And so practical tasks to be under practical tasks. Always I hope that it's pretty much straightforward. Okay, so I will try to switch between channels, but the main conversation will happen again after general. And of course, during the sessions you can ask any questions there. So if something is unclear, or maybe my screen is not visible correctly, or my voice sounds quite bad. So all these things you can briefly write and ask me under this chat. Right. Okay. So if you have any questions, please let me know. So you can write them in chat if there's something in your mind. And so all agendas also they will be located under session planning channel. So before each session I will place the agenda here, so you can check out and find the agenda, the plan we have for the corresponding session, and so you can briefly find what are the topics at each particular day. Okay, so the next one is so all the sessions will happen using Google Meet. I hope you already work with this platform. Okay, hold on. Go Meet. And so basically this will happen in the way that I will start the meeting. I will share the link with you so you can easily join it. Yeah, I will share the link here. So before each session, usually this like 5 minutes before the session, I will share the link here and you can join. So we will use Google Meet. So from my experience, that was the easiest and the most simple platform to have the sessions. Alright, so that's about Google Meet, and also all the sessions will be recorded. You can check them on my channel. So currently, basically how it happens, I just simply streaming the session, so you can quickly navigate to this channel, and then you can see the live streaming of the session. So the stream will end, and then after the session you can watch the recording so when you want. Yeah, so don't worry if you are not able to attend the session. It's fine. You can simply go to this channel and then watch the session. Alright, so that's about the recordings, and so I will place the homeworks with corresponding deadlines under homework help. Maybe the name homework help. Okay, I guess that should be fine. And so here I will place the homeworks. So to contact me, so any concerns, any questions, any maybe if there's something you don't like, you can briefly say it to me. Yeah, so if there's something you would like me to change, so I will listen to you, and most likely I will do it. Yeah, so you can, if you have any questions, any concerns, you can contact me. So the most preferable way to contact me would be that you just simply contact me. So if it's if you want to contact me publicly, then you can use general chat. Yeah, so you can write it there. If you don't want to make it publicly, then you can use private Discord chat. So this is quite a stable way you can contact me, and maybe if you don't like this word, you can also write me the email. So, but yeah, if there's something super urgent, then you can call me. You can also WhatsApp me if you want. So that's up to you to select the communication, the way of communication channel. But yeah, I prefer Discord because for me it's maybe the easiest way to communicate. And again, as I said, you can contact me at at any time you want. So even if it's Saturday, Sunday, it's fine. I will, so according to my availability, I will try to answer you as fast as possible. And usually I reply pretty much fast. So that's almost it about the organization, and here you can find the planning, the structure of our course. I have it opened already. Okay, here we go. So here is the schedule, the plan of our course. So maybe some small things will be changed, especially if we talk about the hours, because of course it's not 100% precise how many hours the corresponding topic may take. So in general, we will try to stick to this plan. So you can check it here. So what else do we have? I guess there is nothing more. Right. Okay. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope that everyone is able to join this Discord group. I guess so, since what I see here, I see that almost everyone is here. If you have, so that's really good. So you can join and share all the thoughts you have there. All right. So then that's pretty much it from the organization perspective. Again, you don't need to turn your cameras on. Yeah, I will also not turn my camera on during the sessions. If you want to see me, of course, I can turn my camera, but in general, that's not required. Okay, so that's it's scope of introduction, and so now we can switch to the next topic. This will be relatively small topic because we already talked about lots of about the introduction. So maybe a little bit more introduction to IT, and after that we will start set up our environment. Yeah, so the agenda is that this will be the introduction to information technology, the data, information, and knowledge in general we have here, computers and operating systems, processes, web environment, and servers. So first of all, what the information technology is. Maybe for those of you who have not worked in the field, in IT field, or in the field related to IT, so information technology is very large field. So it's not only about the programming. Yeah, so maybe for those who have worked with IT, so for them there are some stereotypes that the IT people are only those who sit like from early morning to the evening and write their code. write the code. Just also some more stereotypes are about hacking. Yeah, so if there's the IT related person, then he or she should always be hackers. They can hack something, and this is totally rubbish. So there are almost no hackers in IT world, and no, almost because none of the programmers, only maybe a few programmers, relatively in percentage, can work with some data, not hacking, but some attacks to data. Mostly they are testers, and actually, if, for example, if there's the software which protects the data from the attackers, from the hackers, then of course there should be some testing where someone will attack the system, and of course, so this is the way how the security can be tested. And in this case, of course, some small hacking is needed. But in general, IT is quite a large field. So you will find here the people who always who code, who write the code. But on the other hand, there are lots of managers, lots of project managers, lots of functional people who mostly discuss the solutions, discuss the products they have, and there can be also marketing specialists. They all are IT people. Yeah, so that's everything what is involving the development, maintenance, and in general use of programming system, software, network, and all these related things. Yeah. So in this case, that's not mentioned in this presentation, but it's possible. But it is possible that if you can find that coding is not what you really want to do, then don't worry. In IT, there are lots of different areas, lots of different roles where you don't need to develop anything. You can. There are the roles, for example, where the major part of your work is to communicate with other people to find a solution, for example, maybe to coordinate some things. And maybe if we go ahead and talking about the project management, then from my experience, usually project managers are not familiar with technical solutions at all. They just have, we have this guy from this team, this guy from this team, so please give me the estimates of the work so to be done. So what you need to do this work, so we need this meeting, we'll schedule the meeting, we'll organize this meeting, then the project manager can also prepare the plan for the project, and basically all this stuff which is not quite related to the development at all, to all the technical things at all, just to prepare some planning and to coordinate in between the teams. So there are also such roles in IT. But in general, how the IT works. So of course, on the top of everything, of course, we have the data. And there's, to be honest, I don't think that there is any IT solution, which is practical solution used in real life, where there is no data on the top. Data should always be on the top, because almost all the solutions, not almost, but from my experience, maybe all the solutions are related to the working with the data. Maybe if you have any course, maybe if you have any experience or any examples where you don't need to, when you know some maybe programs, some software where data is not needed, then you can share this information with others. But I guess basically everything uses the data, and if we talk the data, then there can be for example, the vectors. Yes, so there's the texts should be stored somewhere. So if it's PDF files or something like that, also the files should be stored somewhere. And so that's the data, the files, for example, or just any content, the numbers, the graphics, they are all considered as the data, and they are stored somewhere. And when we develop IT solutions, of course, we always work with the data, and our goal is to process the data in one another way. Of course, we have information, that's the understanding of the data. Yes, so of course the solutions are built in the way that they should automatize and understand the data, and the knowledge can be the complex cognitive entity, cause-effect theories, vocabularies, so it's maps and experience and all the things that are used. Yeah, so that's maybe more about theory. So shortly, if we talk about the development of the computers, of course, as you already understood that. So yeah, any questions? So just hear some voices. Okay. Yeah, so as you probably already understood that in past years the technologies have been significantly improved. For example, yeah, but some time ago I realized that before 2007 we haven't had any smartphone in our hands. Yeah, really few people maybe had the smartphones before 2007, but in general, yeah, as I understand, yeah, almost no one had used smartphones before 2007, yeah, when the first iPhone was introduced. But right now, everyone, yeah, practically everyone, has the smartphone in his or her pocket. So that's really something really impressive. And we can see that IT, it's like 14. Okay, yeah, it's 14 years, but yeah, it's something really special that we realized that before 2007 we haven't had any smartphone, almost. We haven't had any smartphone, and right now, so we have almost all the access to the major part of the software, the major part of the programs, just in our smartphones. And of course, if you think about what was in the 1980s or even at the beginning of this century, then of course right now we have an absolutely different world. And yeah, so the availability of the softwares, different programs, of different applications, websites is available for everyone right now, and that's why, of course, so if there are more, if the technologies are more available to everyone, then of course it requires more and more solutions like software, more applications to be developed. Yeah, for example, so if you think about that, maybe some of you may think that that already, so the peak is already, so we already gone through the peak of the information technology, because so we have almost everything in our pockets, but what should we need more? And for example, right now the software for the vehicles, for the cars, is becoming more and more relevant. Yeah, so lots of different softwares. Softwares are introduced to the car industry, and so lots of things in lots of areas where the software, the technologies are introduced. And maybe just small information about the news. Maybe you heard that now in the world there is so-called problem chip shortages, because basically the problem is that there is not enough chips and cheap semiconductors available. And there's a shortage, and it means that there is a so huge demand for new technologies. Then there's basically no resources to produce more and more hardware, and that's why you can see that the demand is so huge now. Yeah, of course, computers at home. So you have almost everyone has the computer at home, and it can also be TV. So nowadays most of TVs have some kind of smart TV, smart options, which also uses some kind of applications, some kind of software, and so on. Video games and so on. So all these things require some kind of IT development. So also there are computers, as you can say, computers go. So they are encountered in nearly every aspect of daily life, like ATMs, consumer kiosks, portable computers, and GPS systems, and so on. So it's basically everywhere now. So computer is the electronic device, and the idea of, as you may already notice, and as I said, the idea of all the devices is that you have some kind of data. Like if it's your smartphone, then there are lots of things stored there, and the main thing is that you work with all these data. And you have maybe, so right now if we go a little bit more closer to the programming, is that so as you may notice that you have input, and you enter the data, you pass some signals to your device, again if it's smartphone, computer, or basically as we start from here, we can call, for example, the computer or the smartphone, we can call it as the computer. So there's the input, so you pass something, you pass some commands to your computer, then the computer processes your inputs and processes the data available. Like you have the data in your, let's say, the smartphone, then there's the data there, and based on this data, smartphone processes your input, and at the end, once the processing is done, you have the output. And this is basically if we talk about what happens on top, so this is what happens on top of the programming. So there's input, the comments you pass, processing, your comment is your input, your comment is processed, and at the end you have the result, the output. And this is what almost all the computers do. Like if it's video game, for example, you control the actions on this video games, and using the actions you do, the software, the computer, as we can call it, processes the input you provided, and then you have the output. And then you also have the storage, so the place where the data is placed. So that can be the problem. Again, the files. Usually these are the files. And yeah, so the communication, how basically this is the channel where when you send and you receive the data. Then we talk about the operating system. So that's basically the software which allows you to communicate with the hardware. Again, like if it's your computer, then maybe again, if you have Windows, for example, then so this your computer, you turn it on, and then you have Windows operating system, which allows you to communicate with the data stored on your computer. Also, it has the applications, the browser. You can actually browse and to do anything you want there. Yeah, so basically the operating system, I mean, nowadays it's pretty much forward. That's basically the environment where the software, the environment where all the main things happen. Yeah, and so in general, if we talk, then the operating systems, they manage the memory, they manage the processors they have, like they control the resources taken from the processes, at what power and at what power the processes work, the files, the place where the files are stored, what kind of hardware they use, and so on. Yeah. So basically, all the action, like for example, now I'm moving my mouse, and this is also, so I'm moving my finger, and of course the mouse is moving, so that's also what is managed by operating system. Yeah, in theory, so of course you should know that this is these actions, I mean the actions which mean this communication, yeah, between me and actually the moving mouse. So as you may understand that this is already developed somewhere, so the operating system processes the commands I sent to this, like move right, move left, up and down, and so on, and of course this is managed by operating system. Then we talk about the processes, and so for example, I use the instance of computer program that is being executed by one or many threads. So it contains the code and its activity. Yeah, so that's basically the instance of the program. Yeah, so where which processes some kind of data. Yeah, depending on the operating system, the process may be made up of multiple threads. Like it can be one process, another process, they can all move in theory in parallel. Yeah. And the execution instructions concurrently, so there are the processes and there are the instructions of them to what they should do. There are also batch systems, so batch usually, so if you see batch name, then it usually means that something happens in background, so it's something you don't really see, or you actually don't really control. Right, for example, this may be that you send, like, small example, you send the email, so it's like you press the button, send email, and so then the software from where you send the email, it sends the so maybe using some channels or where the email is received, then that kind of software, it receives the email. So for example, it can be Gmail or something like that, and then it uses its background processes, and for example, it sends the notification to the receiver. So this is considered as the batch process, which is not controlled by the user. so it's controlled by the system. Yeah, and this is what we usually call as the batch. As the batch thing can be the system again, that's something what happens in the background. And there are the jobs. For example, again, the job may be to send the notification to the user. Yeah, and many modern process concepts are still expressed in terms of jobs. And yeah, job scheduling. If we talk about job scheduling, it means a little bit different thing. For example, let's say that maybe the most simple example would be that you have the alarm. Yeah, so you set the alarm to be so for example to 6 o'clock, for example 6 a.m. and so we can consider it as the batch job which executes like once a day at 6 a.m. Yeah, so you have the job scheduled, which should be, let's say, all the working days of the weekdays, and so it will be repeated like every day. Yeah, so you schedule it once, and then it is repeated every time. Yeah, so then this a process is an active entity as opposed to a program which is considered to be passive entity. So the process this is what is ongoing. And a single program can create many processes when run multiple times. For example, when we open the executable file on Windows, or it can be, for example, binary file, then multiple instances begin, so we actually execute multiple processes at once. So how this will look like? So for example, if we talk about process memory, how it usually happens, maybe this is a little bit more deep about the programming in general, but okay, so we have this tag. So it usually is done in the way that we start the program, so then the program uses tag, then we can imagine this as from the other side there is heap, data and text summing, so that's the static data, which is not really changed. Yeah, that's it can be changed, but so it's something static which has a longer lifetime than just a simple stack. Yeah. So stack, that's the place where the process is. So and the process memory is divided into 4 sections, as you can see here. Text section comprises the compiled program, so we have the actual program which where the code is written. It's compiled, so it's ready to be executed. Yeah, and since you see the word compile, maybe some of you don't really know what does it mean. Compilation means that so by default your program is just the simple text code, so you can write a code in one other programming language. But so if you simply, what does it mean? It means that your code is simply written as the same way when you type in TextPad. Yeah. So if you use, for example, Notepad, you can also write or a piece of paper and you can write the code there as well. But of course, your code won't run. Yeah. So if you just simply write it. So to run the code should be compiled. Compiled means that maybe I will not go deep into technical details what happens during compilation, but the idea is that your text, so the text you written, is transformed to the executable, maybe not really executable code. Yeah, it's not always executable code, but to the code which can be used in the execution. Yeah, so that's what compiled code means. Yeah, it's basically translated from the text you write to the actual commands to be the actual commands which can be understood by by the environment where the program can be executed. So then we go to the data section. So that's the storage, global and static variables. Again, maybe that's not so good that we talk about the variables now, since we have not all the topics. We have not talked about the topic, about the topic of the variables. But yeah, this is in general how it looks like. Heap, that's the dynamic memory allocation, and it will be available. We can later. I'll explain you how we can actually imagine heap, and what's the difference between heap and stack memory. That's we'll talk about a little bit later about these things. So maybe right now, since we haven't really talked about the programming in general, then we can maybe at this point just I guess that should be enough if we simply take a look on the picture. So, and here you can see the processes, and when we talk about the processors, then we should think about some states of the process. So first of all, there can be new process. That means that the process is created at some point. Then it is submitted and it is ready. So once it is ready, then it can start running. Yeah, so during running, the process can be interrupted. It can have something. It can ask for input. Yeah, so I/O this. So if you see this I/O, this means input output. Yeah, so something means there should be the input from the user provided. Yeah, so and the output is something that should come from the running process. Then it can wait, of course, at this point when something needs to be entered, like if it's the text, then of course the program waits until you enter the text, and then again it's ready, and we go next step. So and at the end, so once the process is finished, then you can exit and then we terminate it. And yeah, of course, some systems, some environments may have other states as well. Then one of the last things from the theory for today is World Wide Web, so 3W. Commonly said as the web. That's basically, by definition, that's the information system where documents and other resources are identified as uniform resource locators URL, which may interact by hypertext or accessible over the internet. Maybe in a simple language, from my point of view, so that's the communication channel in between the systems, I would say, in between the users, in between the. But yeah, we can also say that that's the system. So we can say that this is the communication channel between the systems in a simple way. Yeah, so maybe just one thing to understand that. So using, for example, if you use a browser, and if you type a link there, then basically what happens, the page. So if you navigate to somewhere, then the page is loaded. Like the simple thing is. So maybe let me open any website. Maybe let it be Microsoft.com. So you type the link. So basically what happens? So you type the link, then the page is loaded. That's it. Like in this case. So I typed the link, I provided the information where I should navigate, then the page is loaded. The page is loaded, we have the information here. Of course, there are different things to explain about how the page is loaded, what happens in the backside of the loading, but in general is that we type link, then we receive the information. And the next step is where the information is stored. And the information is stored on the server, so it's the computer, or sometimes can be also the computer program. So that's basically the place where some kind of information is stored. If it's data, so there can be the data of people, any data it can be. And of course, on the other hand, it can be the place where like if it's web server, and that's the place where the page is located. The same way here, if we go to Microsoft.com, then this page, this content is loaded on the server. Yeah, I don't know which server Microsoft uses, but it can be, I guess there should be their local server, but yeah, so that's the server they use, and they receive the information. So basically the server is the place, you can say computer, where the data is stored. Yeah, again, the data can be web server. Actually, we call the database also as the server. Yeah. And so this is how the communication usually works. So we have the computer passes the request to web server, and web server communicates with the database. Sometimes maybe I have not really developed the communication between the servers and database, but sometimes it's also possible that the database is stored inside the web server. So I guess there are such concepts. So yeah, maybe the concept is not quite comfortable, but in theory it's also possible that the data is stored on web server. But I mean, the general idea is that should be the database. Yep, so then we go from client, we go to the web server, then the web server communicates to the database. So yeah, the web server is the place where all the main logic is stored. Like if it's the website, yeah, Microsoft.com, then there is the actual logic which generates the information to this website. There can be some kind of program calls there, so the code is executed, then you actually get the web page. Yeah, and the web page, of course, also. So on the web server, there are the files stored for this needed for this page loading, and also some program codes, and of course some programs to actually compile to run this code. Yeah, so they're also located on the web server, and the database is used as the place where the information is stored. So basically, how it happens from client to go to web server. Web server triggers the creation of this web page, and that's the web page. If it's anything else, then it can also be like anything else. So it can be the program, the software you're using. Then again, it goes to database. So it asks database to get some data, or maybe to change the data as well. Then we get the response from the database. Then based on the response from the database, so we receive some kind of information, and I see the question from Asna for a moment. So let me quickly finish this picture. Yeah, then I'll answer to the question. So from database we get the information, we get the data. Then we go to the web server. Then, based on the information we get from the database, again, let's say that there can be some kind of data about the persons, like maybe just maybe your age or something like that. Any data, any data. You receive it, and then the data is received on the web server. Then, based on this data, this web server produces you the information, which is then printed on the screen. So now you see it, based using the HTTP request, it sends the data to your browser, you can see it. And yeah, there's the question from Mustnad, what's the difference between domain and web server? No, they're not the same. Domain, that's the actual identifier of the website. Yes, so a moment. Maybe I can also quickly introduce you with the domain. So a moment. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, in fact, I guess there are different. Sorry, a moment. I will need to open different. So a moment. Microsoft.com. Hold on a second. Yeah, so if we go to Microsoft.com, so domain, that's this Microsoft.com. So this is the domain. Actually, there are maybe also there are different meanings of domains, but again, if we talk about the web development, then we mostly talk about the domains as this part. And so that's the domain. And in this case, the domain is, I guess, 3W is not included here. It's Microsoft.com. So that's actually the identifier of the page. It should actually be unique. So you cannot really have like. So if you go to Microsoft.com, you cannot navigate to other place. Yeah, you always navigate to this one particular place. Yeah, so that's the unique identifier. Unique identifier which actually navigates you to the web server. And actually, right now, so I guess we have pretty much time. I can show you one example of the website developed by me. So I use so moment. This also needs .lv. So this is the place where you can find Latvian domains. So basically, what do we have? So this is the web hosting, basically web server. I use, so for example, if we go to, we'll go to my web hosting. So a moment, let's go to my customer account. So that's the web hosting, which actually allows everyone to buy the option to use their web servers. So it means that on their web servers I can simply develop my website. So how does it work? Yeah, maybe I guess I can show to you. I use web cloud. It's maybe not so important. So yeah, maybe the first step is that I have the domain here. So for Latvian domains, I guess we only have this needs.lv. So and basically how it works. Here I have my own domain. So here basically I can buy my own domain. Yeah. So here it is. So that's my domain. I have this domain. Yeah, so that's the domain I bought. It should be unique, so I cannot. So there cannot be. No one else can buy the same domain. smartlybaltic.lv. So it's mine. This is what I bought, and it's unique. And so no one else can have. So I bought it. So at least for this year. And so that's the end date to this domain. And so during this period, I bought this domain, and no one else can use it. Yeah, so I have it. Next step is that I have the web page, which is currently loading quite slow. We hope it will be loaded finally. Yeah, okay, that's good. So and here I have my web page. My web page. So that's the server. So that's the server, and so here's basically there are the files used for the server. So in this case I have the server, and here I can actually navigate between the files I have here. So here I can navigate. Okay. navigate, and here I have basically I have the files. Yeah, so this is the server, so this is the web server, and I have the files here. So the files which can be used for this on my website. So they're here, and I have the domain assigned to this web server. Yeah, so here is my domain. I registered it. Yeah, so there can be different procedures to register it. So I registered it, and yeah, I was provided the root folder. So it means that once I navigate to this website, so that's the domain. I haven't navigated it a long time, but so here it is. So I navigate to this domain, and it basically navigates to the, so you can see that free.w public, so that should be free.w public, and yeah, so actually, yeah, maybe we will not talk about the web development right now, but it uses index file. Yeah, that's what by default happens in all the web environments. Yeah, so it's quite simple. I have the domain here. I provide the root folder, so that's the server. So that's the data stored on the server, and then I can simply have this domain here. It can have some redirection. Yeah, that's why we are here on search new order. But yeah, by default we go to this smartthing.ov, then it navigates to this page, which is, so basically there is the code. Yeah, so on this index PHP there is the code triggered, and actually this code does some actions and navigates to the corresponding page. And so that's why this is the domain. The domain is actually the identifier. Also, the domain can be used. So the domain here is smartthing.ov. So the domain can also be used for the emails, for example. And from my experience, I have not used any other options, only for the websites and the emails. So that's the domain. Yeah, domain, that's the identifier, unique identifier, which can be used, again, from my experience, for websites, yeah, to navigate, and also for the emails. So you can also use the smartphone button. For example, in my case, I can use it for my email, and I can use it. Right? So that's the difference between the domain and the web server. Domain, that's just the text, just as a unique identifier. But the web server is the place where the actual data of your website is stored on. Okay, and the last thing, that's the last thing, and yeah, there's the last thing is this picture, is the application server. So this is maybe more advanced technology, but what's the advantage of this technology is that yeah, about the database we'll maybe talk a little bit later, but maybe I'll quickly say that the communication between the database may be a little bit not complicated, but it may hit the performance of your page, because again you can see that here you have 3 stages, and on practice the communication between all these stages may take some time. Yeah, it may hit the performance in some way if the communication is not established in the best way. And also what we usually try to do, we usually try to communicate in between these parts as less as possible. Why? Because for example, how it can be, so on the web server you have the program which asks me, for example, please take some data from table A. Okay, so it goes here, it takes data, then the data is now fetched from database, data is here. Then there's the next step of the program code, which asks, like, let's fetch the data from table B. So it goes here again, then it fetches the data from table B. So now we actually have